Anyway, this is called, as you know, I Know That Voice.
Yes, or as we're going to rename it this week, Who the F*** is that?
Hello and welcome to I Know That Voice, a podcast about voice actors and voice acting. I'm Keith Wickham, I'm a voice actor, have been for 30 years. You'll know me best probably as Sir Topham Hatt from Thomas and Friends, as well as Gordon, Henry, Edward and various other engines in the show.
Can you get on with it, Keith?
I'm also Professor Inkling and Chuggington in the Octonauts, and I was a koala brother, I was Cornel and Watch My Chops, I was in 64 Zoo Lane. I was also Change Daily in The Secret Show.
Show isn't about you.
I thought it'd be nice to talk to my fellow voice artists about their profession. These are people whose voices you will know, but who could still go to the supermarket without being mobbed. Today's guest is the voice of Peso in the Octonauts, and I've worked with him over many years, and he's a theatre, radio and television actor, and he is the marvellous Paul Panting.
I think we've got enough there.
All right, so today I am talking to Paul Panting, a voice artist.
Hello, Keith.
Hello, Paul. He is there. I know he's there. I can see him on my screen. We've mainly worked together on the Octonauts. And he's Peso in the Octonauts, for those listening.
Hello.
Well. All right. It's not an audition.
I need a run-up to do it now.
But we will start to begin at the beginning. We'll start with where you started and why you became an actor. I always do like to do this, to see what led you into this ridiculous profession.
The very beginnings of it were at a Christmas show when I was in the infant school. I was doing this song about I can't remember exactly what it was called, but I had to pull toys out of a sack, and so that, and I'm giving the children a toy boat for Christmas. I'm giving the children a toy car, and I managed to pull the wrong toy out of the sack at the time. So I'm talking about the car. Here comes the boat. Gets a big laugh. I think that was where it started. I thought, oh, hang on a minute, I'm onto something here.
So your career started with a massive cock-up.
Yes, exactly, yeah. and it's kind of the path that's followed ever since then. But really, I think like lots of actors will tell you, it's just we're all trying to fit in, aren't we, and find our little gang at school.
Right.
I was crap at sport.
Oh yeah, I think we all were, weren't we?
and these two wonderful teachers at Highfield Secondary Modern School, which was like a sort of holding pen, really. You went there for 4 years before going into Chatham Dockyard to work. But my kind of time at school was saved by these wonderful teachers, Marion Bolton and Barbara Whiting, who I'm still in touch with now, who were the music teacher and the drama teacher, and they used to put on musicals each year. So I played Tevier in Fiddler on the Roof at the age of 14. I'm still trying to get the stick and beard off, frankly. So,
and you're still wishing you were a rich man.
Still definitely wishing I was a rich man.
Yeah.
So suddenly I did that, found I was good at it, met people, and crucially met some girls.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah, so I think that was it, really. Right. And then got into the next... I don't want to give you my CV, Keith. But,
No.
Got into doing National Youth Theatre as a kid.
That? Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah. I did 3 years there, actually. I had a fantastic time.
Wow.
Did a production of Romeo and Juliet with a young man called Daniel Craig.
Oh, right.
I was Benvolio, he was Paris. My billing was higher.
Yeah, I know. It should
Whatever happened to him.
It always should be. Yeah, he got blown up in the last one.
Yes, exactly. He won't be back. There's time for us to be considered.
Yes, I've been putting a bow tie on, hoping someone will see me.
Yeah. So it's a traditional route, really.
Okay.
Got into it, found I really loved it, and ended up at the Bristol Old Vic Theatre School, or the Gladys Arkwright School of Tap and Flower Arranging, as it's known to those of us that went there. Sharpen your pencil and find your light. Try and turn up on time.
That's very good advice. And what, you sharpen your pencil simply to stab other actors?
Yes, exactly.
So they don't work again. So this is a good route in. So it wasn't voice artist first.
No, I had no idea. I mean, to be honest, I came from a very ordinary working class background. So the idea that I could be an actor was just preposterous, really. I think I do remember watching Quadrophenia when I was about like 12 or 13 and thinking, hang on a minute, there's people acting there that sound like me. Look like me. Perhaps there's a route to that. And these teachers, Barbara and Marilyn, they kind of got me interested in it. And it was Barbara who said, why don't you audition for the National Youth Theatre? I didn't know anything about it. I don't think I'd ever been to see anything in the theatre, let alone think it was a potential career path. So yeah, that was it really. Slowly got into it that way.
And what about voice acting specifically? How did that happen?
Well,
did you aim for that or fall into it?
Again, sort of accidental. I think, like a lot of people who do voice work, they'll say that they were always doing it when they were kids, I was constantly being told off by my dad, stop playing with your mouth, stop doing that. So I always had a flair for it without maybe even realising I did. About a year or two after drama school, I'd had a fair go in the first couple of years doing theatre and things, but I hit a bit of a wall in the early 90s. Do you remember the economy was pretty bad then?
Yes.
It sort of reminds me a bit of how things are now.
There was a big crash, wasn't there? Really?
That's right. And I was suddenly out of work, living back at home, not really knowing what to do. And I remembered that I'd enjoyed the radio drama module at drama school. So I started writing letters to radio drama producers, BBC, about trying to get on the radio drama company. And I can't remember exactly how it happened, but I got an audition for it and got on. And it was there that I sort of started to meet older actors. And I wish I could remember who it was, but it was this quite well-known TV actor who was walking around carrying a massive early 1990s Nokia mobile phone.
Right.
I thought, my God, look at that. That man must be really successful.
Yeah.
Which actor needs a mobile phone? We don't need to be that reachable. And I said, what have you got that for? And he said, I do voiceovers. Yeah. And I just remember thinking, well, hang on a minute.
There you go.
And I sat in the green room at Broadcasting House with a copy of Contacts and the free BBC phone, phoning voiceover agents.
Fantastic.
And I got through to Sheila Britton, our shared agent.
Oh, yes, that's right.
At Castaway.
Yeah. Yes.
And she, bless her, said to me, come in for a chat.
Yeah.
So I hadn't done a show reel. I had no idea what was involved in that world.
Wow.
And I turned up, had a long chat with her. I think I got quite lucky because Tim Bentinck, for those of you that don't know who Tim Bentinck is, and he's David Archer in The Archers, and fantastic actor, great voice actor, and a mate now. I think he had just left Sheila, Castaway, to go to Hobson's, another voiceover agent, and there was a gap there. So entirely accidental, really, and then it sort of started from there.
Yeah.
Sheila, if you're listening to this, I think you're retired in France. Thank you very much.
Yes, for both of us.
Yeah.
Well, we'll thank you. I'm not sure the rest of the world does. But
very soon after I got into doing voiceovers, I auditioned for Martin Gates. Do you remember Martin and Sue Gates Productions? They did various animations.
Okay.
And they had this TV series, animation series at the time called Bimble's Bucket, which was quite beloved apparently in the mid-90s. And again, sort of hanging on, I got in the back door slightly because the first series had been done and it was the lead character, Bimble, who had a magic bucket, and was played by Lewis MacLeod.
Oh, fantastic.
And you'll have to ask Lewis if you interview him why he didn't stay on to do the second series.
Okay.
But anyway, thanks, Lewis, because I got involved with them.
Right.
And that started a really long relationship with Martin and Sue. I did several series and a couple of long film animations with them.
I'm assuming, similar to me, that experience outside of voice work is important to feed into the voice work itself.
Absolutely. Well, I didn't see it in any way separate to any other area of working as an actor. It's in my mind and still remains. It's the same thing, but you're just using. It's not just putting on a silly voice. It's
it is a proper
acting.
Performance. Yes, it is.
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
Yes, and you lose yourself within it. Yes,
completely.
Yes,
completely.
The experience in front of an audience is so important. If you just walk into doing this, it's not the same because you don't have in your head the timing and the way an audience reacts and the way people will react to what you're saying.
Absolutely. I've done a one-man show.
Oh, okay.
That was frightening enough. Yeah. That was at the White Bear in Kennington.
Oh, I know the place. Yes.
I put on. Yeah, it was various drunks and a whippet. I think we're in the audience for that.
Did the whippet enjoy it?
No, I don't think so. He left several times. Came back in occasionally and then walked out again.
What was the one-man show about?
Well, it was the poetry of this fantastic guy I met called Leo Aylan, and he's a performance poet, and it was very sort of kind of visual stuff, brilliant poetry, and I didn't have an agent at the time, and I thought, well, I better do something about this. So, as you do when you're like 22.
Yeah, you do it. You just do it.
Do it.
Yeah.
So I put on this show at the White Bear in Kennington and invited various agents along and got representation that way.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
And that's how right.
Well, your impressions are absolutely amazing.
Well,
having shared space in a studio with you for many years, and that's something again that's not really what I do. I mean, some people say that everything I've ever done sounds a bit like Frank Spencer, but other than that, I wouldn't exactly call myself an impressionist.
Where did we meet first? Apart, it was Sheila. It must have been Sheila's.
Well, obviously, having the same agent, I remember kind of just... Because back in those days, you would be encouraged to rock up in the office.
In the office, yeah.
And so we were all busy working around Soho at that time. And we did Wilf the Witch's
Wilf the Witch's dog.
Wilf the Witch's dog,
yes.
That's it.
With Kerry Shale.
Kerry Shale. And
in Westbourne Grove somewhere. It was
Adrian Sear, wasn't it?
That's right. It was Adrian.
Yeah.
Soundtracks.
Yeah, Soundtracks are no longer there, sadly. That was a lovely studio.
Yeah.
That was in the early noughties, though.
Yes, it was.
But we'd known each other for a while before
then. And then
Octonauts
we did for 12 years.
Well, it was the scripts with that.
The scripts were great. I mean, the whole setup was great with that. We were in a studio together. And it's, people working now, I'm not sure how much that happens anymore.
Well, I mean, we were touching upon, voice acting not being separate to any other area of the industry, and I think that was what was wonderful about that, the way Dave Peacock, the director, set that up, and that it was effectively like doing a radio play, wasn't it?
Yes.
We'd all be together for several days, work, and we were given a lot of time on each script, and we would do 3 in a day, tops?
4, I think.
4 in a day. It got more efficient as the years went by.
Yeah.
But it really felt, I'm not sort of wanting to sound precious about that. I think that really fed into the what made it such a beloved show.
Yeah, I think so.
Because we had the time and the being in the room together, you got a sense of what everybody else was doing, bringing, to their performances, the kind of rhythms. Whereas if you're on your own, which obviously we did have to do a bit of towards the end of it because of COVID, it's very difficult to get a sense of what else is going on.
Yeah. Thomas and Friends, which I did in parallel, almost exactly the same period of time, was pretty much all done on our own.
Really?
There were too many in the cast. That was the problem.
Right.
There
okay. You couldn't get
huge numbers of
together.
people, and also I was doing the original American series, and then it was dubbed into UK English when it was animated. Right. So it was really only ever done as separate
Yes, yes. I've done a few shows like that too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fine. It works.
It works.
But it's not, in my opinion, it's not.
And it's a
good.
luxury you can only afford on a series where you know what the structure's going to be and you've got the 4 or 5 actors or whatever it is all the same all the time.
Absolutely.
And even when they were bringing in other actors towards the end, it was still in the room, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. And that was great. Yes, you don't realise when you're starting out on something like that how precious that experience is going to be, but it will remain with me. And the producers kind of were there all the way through, weren't they?
Yes.
I mean, some of the faces changed over the years, but their input was always there.
Yeah. Now, to come on to the meat of this.
Yes.
Now, we're talking about nostalgically about how it was and how everything sort of worked. And even when we were doing things were changing, because I remember going from tape. My first reel was on a tape, an open reel tape.
Yeah.
And then early 2000s, everyone switched from using cassettes
CD
to CDs or streaming. So it started to become MP3s.
Yes.
And it changed everything. Do you remember the cassettes?
I do, yeah. I remember shoving them into jiffy bags and sending them off.
Yeah.
Spending an absolute fortune. Yeah. Putting in a 10x8.
And my agent...
Please, can I come and do some voiceovers for you?
And my agent, Sheila, and then Calypso, I was with later, have racks of cassettes of to send out to people.
Yes.
And they'd post them. A courier would take them around. And that completely... And I remember when the digital thing came.
When did that change, do you think?
Early 2000s.
Early 2000s, okay.
Because MP3s became viable about then. Before that, it wasn't possible. And when you think of the waste, the plastic, the petrol, the time...
Absolutely.
Of all of that. When the digital came in, at that point, there was a sweet spot when it was a brilliant tool, when it was just... Everything changed. The recording techniques changed. All those tape machines went... Everything became easier for the engineers. It was just so much easier to edit and record and send your show reel out. And it was all of that to me. I was a very early adopter of all this. All that seemed fantastic.
Oh, yeah, you love all that stuff.
It was fantastic, and it worked and worked and worked. And I can make entire sitcoms and dramas in my study now, which you could only do back then in a studio. You had to pay huge amounts of money.
So do you still think because of that it's a force for good? Largely, that change.
My point is, at that stage, it was. However, when you look back on it, and this is where I'm going with this, when that happened, people lost jobs then. Couriers, people who made the cassettes, people and sound engineers, people who were only trained in analog.
Yeah,
they kind of lost their jobs if they didn't adapt. And we were fine. We sailed through all that. We get to this point. It's now our turn. Is my feeling.
Yes, but I mean, I wonder how much of that is to do with the technology, and how much is it to do with the fact that we are now a little older than we once were.
Well, I'm not talking about us specifically, Paul.
You're thinking the industry.
I'm thinking in general, general terms.
Well, I think yes, I agree. Well, there seems to be a collective intake of breath right at this moment, doesn't there? And obviously that the technology change is driving that. The big change, I think, has I've noticed over the last few years is that even though I would consider myself quite an experienced actor and voice artist now, everything you have to audition for.
Right.
And the new technology means you can record something from home, and that's great. And why wouldn't you want to hear somebody recording your material? But for us, that's a hell of a lot more work that we have to take on and find the time to do. And 20 years ago, we would have been cast from our show reel.
Yeah.
And that's a huge change and very time consuming.
Although less time consuming, it could be argued, than going into a studio in town to have to do an audition.
True, but going into town and having an audition, I've always felt gives me more of a chance of landing it.
Yes.
And thing isn't just going out into the ether and you never hear again. That's quite difficult and quite challenging for all actors. Everybody I speak to says the same. It's a lonely place, that not having any feedback at all, not hearing a yes or a no. And I mean, we both do computer games, Keith, and that is, I think, a real example where you can audition for 20 characters in a show, and you put in a lot of work, and you might not hear anything. Big up to Liquid Violet studio in London. I've recently, I can't say the title of it because it's under NDA, but I've recently done a game with them, and that came from an audition, in-room audition. And I just think maybe it's because of my vintage, I think I'm much better in that environment. And my hit rate is much better in that environment. You go in, you come up with your first idea for a character, they give you some direction, you do something else. That's what I'm used to. And, otherwise, all that the people are hearing when you send off an audition is your very first idea.
Yes. I generally send 3 versions, I think, on a thing.
Yeah.
But,
absolutely.
But you kind of just don't expect to hear back. If you don't expect it, then you're never disappointed.
Well, that's certainly the headspace you've got to get yourself into.
Yeah,
the job is the audition, in a way.
Yes.
I can't remember who said that to me the other day, but I think it's a great way of looking at it. It's done. You've done the audition.
Yeah. That's
send it off. It's done. You've done it. That was your job.
The worst thing is a recall, because a recall gives you a chance of getting it, and you've forgotten you've done it.
Yes.
And you're quite happy.
Now you're visually picturing yourself doing it and spending the money.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been really democratizing, hasn't it? And so voice work is open to a vastly greater number of people now, and the traditional route that you took through stand-up, kind of cutting your teeth that way,
and you said,
and me coming from drama school, and that isn't really necessary anymore.
I don't think
so.
No,
people, all you need is a microphone and a computer and some talent, and you can find a way into it. So there's a lot more people going for the same amount of work, or maybe arguably less work.
The setup that you and I have got now, that I'm looking at on your screen, you've got a like exactly the same as me, the Rode microphone and a booth. Not many people had that when we started, if you remember.
No.
There were very few voiceovers who had their own setup, were there? Well,
I didn't have it until lockdown, and I have to say, Keith, I was really resistant to it. And I sort of still feel the same way, really. It wasn't my dream to sit in a booth by myself, never seeing anybody.
No.
I mean, it's a collective experience, isn't it? I think so. It's to create. I mean, that doesn't mean that you can't do great work like this, but it's not as enjoyable.
No, that's true. But it is the way it's gone.
Yeah.
Do you feel? I was asking. I've asked everybody this. Do you feel threatened by it, or do you feel that it's just the way of things, and that's where it's always been? That change is always there.
Well, I think. Am I threatened by it? Occasionally, yes. I mean, obviously, I suppose you. Not really. I do accept that. I think this has always gone on, and that what you have to do is to find a way to adapt. Or or get out. That's the choice, really.
I suppose.
But unfortunately for me, I can't do anything else.
No. What are we all qualified for? I always think this. What can we do?
You're right. Change is always happening, and I think it will find a place, and the work will continue to be made. You've just got to adapt to it. I mean, which you're doing. Look, you're making your own thing.
Yeah.
Now.
Well, this has taken me time to do, because I was resistant to this. I was resistant to doing anything like this.
Yeah.
Rupert Degas said the same thing. That he was don't want to do that. No. And now he's all over the internet doing little bits and vignettes and impressions and things.
And with the end game of that being what?
Just to do it.
What's the just to do it?
Just to keep on being
active.
Not
kind of keeping your profile up.
There is an element of that, of course, because if you're not out there, you're not relevant anymore.
Well, that's something I have to say I have struggled with quite a lot, because that that was not the kind of world that we came into.
Not at
was
all.
it really? It was just a question of, you did the work, and the work is what was important. And so the idea of me being a product,
Yes.
or, something that I've got to, I find a little, that doesn't come naturally to me, I have to say.
It doesn't come naturally to a lot of people.
I prefer the sort of, you have an agent
Yeah.
that does that kind of thing.
Exactly.
But definitely the world has changed, and I think, you can see that...
I know, the skills you have to learn. I mean, I already knew how to use the tech, but the tech has gone on to the point where you have to be a web designer and a manager and a marketeer and and you have to do all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And that's the stuff that I am resistant.
Oh, I'm sort of phobic almost. I would say resistant is underplay. I'm possibly the last actor in Britain to not have his own website. I mean, it's ridiculous, isn't it? It's ridiculous.
It took me a long time. I've only had my proper website for a couple of years. And even then, I don't do that much with it. Because most of the stuff you do is going to be live, it's going to be this, it's going to be going out on something else.
How important is a website now, do you think?
It's
it's a way of reaching you, I suppose, isn't it?
It's a central point you can point people at. And you can put your show reels up there.
Yeah.
And whatever. Yeah. And unless you're using
Although
it...
a good mate of mine who has an advertising agency said, this is a couple of years ago now, he said, I was pitching you in a room for an advert, and he said, I was talking about the fact that you were in the Octonauts. He said, of course, everybody that is in that room, most of them have got kids who are watching the Octonauts, so immediately they're going, great, let's listen. Yep. He said, and then I typed you into the interweb and couldn't find you.
You see.
So it is important.
Yeah.
It really is important.
You have to have some presence. Yes, yes. That really, it took me a long time to get my head around that. Yeah, long time. I was perfectly happy just doing the job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. The rest of it feels like showing off.
It does a bit. It does a bit, doesn't it? But you've kind
I can just hear my dad saying, "Sit down. We've all seen you.
Stop doing that with your mouth.
Stop doing that with your mouth." Exactly. I remember my dad holding up a copy of the Daily Mail or something to me just before I was going off to the Bristol Old Vic Theatre School.
Right.
And it said something like, 85% of actors are unemployed at any given time. And I was going, don't worry about that, Dad. That's the other lot.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
I'll be fine.
Yeah, and you do at that age. I remember one job you did that you might not want to talk about. Is The Lover's Guide.
Yes.
Yeah. Now,
yes. Can I just say, Keith, it's actually the Essential Lover's Guide.
The Essential Lover's Guide.
Yes. I think I got that job largely because of my surname.
Exactly what I thought at the time. That's exactly what I thought. I thought, what an apt name.
That was one of my first. Oh God, I found it the other day because I was quoting a line. I don't know whether you're allowed to put this on your show, but I was quoting. Somebody said to me, "What's one of the weirdest things you've ever had to say?" Mm-hmm. And I said I had the line in the Essential Lover's Guide. Now, bearing in mind I'm about 23 when I was doing this, and so I didn't really know what I was talking about, frankly. But I had to do this voiceover to picture. And at the time, you could show, it's like 96 or something like that, you could show people having sex if they were real couples. So that's the way they got around the licensing.
Right.
But it was education. And I had to say, one thing your man might enjoy is a lightly lubricated finger on or in the anus. Oh dear. And then I had to say, but make sure your nails are trimmed. That was the kind of thing I was dreaming of when I went to drama school.
All that training.
But anyway, yes, it can still be found at various boot fairs.
I'm sure.
The Essential Lover's Guide.
I'm sure. Well, it's got to be the back end of the car, hasn't it?
Yes. I really enjoyed doing that job, actually.
Yeah.
It was great fun. But yeah, that remains one of my most enjoyable jobs.
So thank you very much, Paul. It's been a pleasure talking to you about your life in voices.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for sharing my life in voices. Keith. Thank you for being there.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you.
Take care, mate.